Hi, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Nice.
Happy
Great.
to.
First of all, would you like to give us a short introduction of who you are and what Vivid Money is?
Yeah, certainly. So, shortly, I'm Alex, one of co-founders of Vivid, and Vivid is a neobank for SME staff. We are grown here in Germany, 5 years old, fastest growing platform for SMEs these days. So, yeah, excited to talk with you today.
Great. Thank you very much. First of all, I knew Vivid for a very long time, to be honest. I still remember the first rounds that you guys did, and one of the biggest round, I think, in 2021, uh, just before the downturn. So I really love the possibility to talk about your experience because I think it's one of the most interesting, at least in the European fintech market. So I wanted to start from the beginning. First of all, your background. So where are you coming from in terms of experience in this market?
Yeah, uh, I'm kind of 20 years, like last 20 years, I basically with different banks.
Mm.
Before that was called the banks were called fintechs or whatever. So I was lucky enough to always work in a companies which are, quite tech savvy and growing really crazy, like, 300, 500% a year. So I'm originally Russian, so I spent some time of my career like in Russia, then also in Kazakhstan,
Mhm.
then back to Russia in last 5 years here in Germany. So yeah, and we built quite incredible businesses back in Kazakhstan. It's called Kaspi.kz. It's a public company listed on Nasdaq or LSE, the biggest public company in a country. So, and that
I
was
think
a
you
really interesting
acquired
story.
the operation from Rabobank, if I remember correctly, in
Yeah,
Turkey.
recently.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of Alibaba of Kazakhstan, so to say.
Mm.
So it's the biggest e-commerce players, the biggest payment network, and the biggest bank for
Mhm.
retail customers, so for private individuals. And yeah, that's a unique super app.
Yeah.
And I believe like they have something like 14 million customers out of 20 million population. So it's like really huge story. But I mean, it was like first 6, 7 years of this story, and
Mhm.
then I left, joined Tinkoff back then, also the biggest fintech in Russia back then, I believe maybe today as well. So also a public company
Mhm.
listed in London, was listed in London back then. And yeah, I was actually supposed to build like different new products, new businesses for Tinkoff, and one of the most successful was Tinkoff Investments. It's a sort of Robin Hood for Russia. So like, in the
Mhm.
Russian market. So it was a big success, from scratch. We built it up to first, 2 million customers, 5 million customers. Then I believe they have more than 10 million customers today and super profitable business. But yeah, since then I left 2019. Yeah, we are following our Vivid way. So we basically built, the Build Incredible Bank and here in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Vivid journey started in 2019, if I remember correctly, or
Yeah.
2020. 2019. Okay, cool. I, I think that was one of the most interesting time to actually launch a digital bank. After let's say 2015, 2016 until 2021, it was one of the best period to actually launch a new bank. I was the first, period of time launching from zero, from scratch, basically.
It wasn't that much new, to be honest, because like,
Mm,
before that, I kind of acted as an entrepreneur, like,
mm,
but inside a company, meaning like, that was exactly what we did at Tinkoff, right?
mm,
Like one of like these businesses that I mentioned this Tinkoff investment thing. It was basically just an idea. Okay, let's build an app which will allow customers to invest into stocks and ETFs within one tap. So you don't need to go anywhere and buy Apple, Google, whatever stock within just one tap. And that was like as simple as an idea. And then like you have to kind of look at the market, how you can do that, what licenses do you need for that, what people do you need for that, find out the pain points and
mm,
really build something from scratch. And so for me, it was okay. like one more thing I need to understand, like from scratch, and basically build it to something really big. And
Mm.
believe me, like back then, like when we started, Tinkoff Investments, I knew about investments not more than, a movie Wolf from Wall Street, and that's
Yeah.
it. So literally, that was the whole knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of knowledge come with experience and over time. You know, you can actually start from zero and learn everything on the market, on the job, basically.
Yeah,
Maybe launching a bank is a little bit trickier because it involves a lot of back-end operation and regulations, and everything that is basically on the back end that the final user is not actually able to see. But yeah, it requires a little bit of, trial and error, at least in the first phase.
so true. I mean, I think the key here is curiosity. So you really have to be curious on, like, what is the pain points for your customers, your
Yeah.
potential new customers, and basically always try to understand, okay, what is the problem? And I was doing that myself. So like
Mhm.
when I dive into new area, like I basically like, try it myself, look at the experience like with current players on the market, look what's good or bad about them to understand the pain points. Second, you basically, yes, certainly you should have an experience to build operations, licensing stack, acquire a license, and basically run regulatory business. But I had it back then. So meaning
Mhm.
like generally regulation is okay, kind of similar in different parts of the world. So
Mhm.
generally you may assume that all the regulators are in a way trying to build the markets better in terms
Mhm.
of, okay, they want that customers would be safe, that everything with their money would be safe, and basically if you do everything right, you shouldn't be kind of afraid or think it's very, very difficult. It just
Mhm.
takes a lot of time. That's true.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. It takes a little bit of time. I think that comply with regulation is like the first step in order to actually be able to provide security to your customers. Then the second point is actually to automate everything that is a little bit more complex from a technical perspective in order not to block anyone. But it's always very, very interesting to see how people out there are doing that. In different countries, different regulations, and everything. um, I would be very, very curious in order to understand how you work internally. Like for example, I saw that recently you released very, very interesting and cool features like the travel feature, the eSIM, and everything else. And I would love how do you actually approach releasing new products for a digital bank, because it's something very interesting. I was recently talking on how listening on how Revolut does that, and I would love to hear a comparison with you guys. How do you actually do this kind of things?
Yeah. So from the very beginning, and it didn't change since 2019. So Vivid is a heavily focused, product focused company.
Hmm.
And Vivid is built around products.
Hmm.
And we have product teams. So basically, product team, typically, like we have micro teams from 3 to 7 people. The team is growing towards 10 people in a team, we tend to split it by two because we feel it's too big to basically oversight everything. And this team is responsible for one or two products. And basically, something that we really believe in, that customers, they really love if you all constantly improve the product. So if you have a high product velocity, and we have an extremely high product velocity, they would appreciate that, meaning that they don't need to add a penny, they don't need to pay for that one. They get some more and more value out of the product every day. So like that you mentioned this business travel launch. So
Hmm.
no one needs to pay for this one. So we don't get money for bookings or whatever. Instead, we pay out quite a good portion of cashbacks for the bookings.
Hmm.
Before that, crypto earn again, like no one need to pay us for that. We just want to build this crypto interest account. And so basically what we believe in that this is the best way to build a brand. And internally, the whole company is designed for that. There are like product teams, and they're really responsible to deliver that fast and innovate and deliver new products in a way that every week we literally release something new and cool and great for customers. At the same time, in another part of the company, these are, let's call it platform team or functional teams that supports this part of the company basically support product teams. And these are like, I don't know, core team or platform team or processing team or whatever, like legal team, compliance team, and they basically cooperate together to build some products. And suddenly that's a the process to build a product is could be difficult because again, as I said, like it's a you have to comply with all the regulation, you have to do everything properly, and don't forget that we operate in different countries across Europe, so you have to comply with all local regulations. But generally, that's the task for the product manager,
Mm.
who is basically in charge of launching the product and making it live and let customers know about this one, look at the metrics, how penetration is going up. I mean, like, how many customers start to use this product. So yeah, that's how we are designed internally.
Mm. So it's strongly focused on the user needs from one side. So you actually get the feedback from the user what they would like, for example, and then you have a team that is specifically focused on that product. Building that part of the product, right?
There are many streams how we get feedback from
Mm.
customers.
Mhm.
So there are, like, let's say in our existing customers, and they certainly like deliver constantly feedback in chats and
Mm.
emails over like Trustpilot and other like reviews, websites, personal emails, LinkedIn. So I literally serve like at least one, two, three customers a day when they
That's
approach me.
cool.
So kind of yeah, I mean it's normal, and we collect more and more feedback. It's endless process. It will
Mm.
never end. That's a way how to basically feel what's going on with customers. Okay, and my personal experience is more shifted towards negativity because I have to deal with problems always, but
Yeah,
that's good. I mean,
usually CIO need to deal with the
yeah,
bad part of the job.
yeah.
It's kind of normal.
But generally, like I appreciate that people are coming to me because like that helps me to understand. Okay, this is like the point where we can improve. Basically, that's
Mm.
direct us, and many customers they underestimate this one, so they don't understand that this is really the way how they do things. It may be also, by the way, potential customers. And recently there was a funny story. One like long-term friend of mine, and he's a big fan of Odoo, the CRM IRP from Belgium. So big fan. And he told me like back then we were in Barcelona, and just to have a nice weekend. And he told me, okay, Odoo is something you have to integrate with. That's perfect system, and really spent 20 minutes explaining how great is it. And then like recently we made this integration with Odoo, and he immediately like texted me, said, "Hey, nice, finally you
You
integrated
actually
with
did it.
Odoo." And I told him, Nick, but you told me this one, so you told me that this is important. I have to do that, and he was completely surprised and blown up out of this one because he didn't realize that I just made a mark mentally, certainly, right? And was like pushing our team to make this integration happen. Yes, it took some time for us because we had some other priorities, but eventually that's how the roadmap is built.
Yeah.
People just tell you, okay, kind of, this is something what we need.
This is a very interesting point. So, how that kind of interaction with user impact the roadmap itself? Because obviously, as every company out there, the amount of resources is limited. It's not infinite. So, you need to shift priority between different kind of things. How do you decide which one to go and which one to postpone? For example, next quarter, next year, whatever.
I would say that we have very close cooperation between product teams.
Mm.
So what does it mean? Meaning like we every day we have like one or two meetings with several product teams. We have different product people meeting with each other like in every couple of days. So we basically align in priorities, and we do not stick to kind of strict roadmap. So yes, we certainly do have a roadmap for the next 2 months and by end
Mhm.
of year. But then constantly something new is happening. I don't know, something
Mm.
cool we realized that our customers really want from us, or something great we found. And then we have a discussion around this one.
Mm.
Does it worth it? Do people really like it? And we constantly change our own decisions. We constantly change the way we decided for something before that. And it's completely fine, to have very tough discussions. Literally yesterday, we have a really tough discussion for, I don't know, one half an hour about like some exciting update we're going to release in a couple of weeks of time. And it was done already. So like we basically decided for that one, and then we realized, okay, it wasn't done really perfectly. So we adjusted a bit after a severe discussion, and we decided, okay, it's so cool that we have to give it the highest priority. So
Mm.
that's basically the way how we do that. How did we come up with this? It was easy. Basically, the team was working with customer care, we call it the process shedding, when we basically, look what's going on with the customer service when we serve customers, and they sit together and we try to understand what is the flow of problem. And then they realized that more and more customers were speaking about this specific topic, and then we said, okay, we have to bring a nice solution.
Mm.
What we always do, maybe what differentiates us, that we don't want to bring me too solution. So in most of the cases, we try to say, okay, what can we do differently or better than anyone else on the market if someone is really on this topic, and try to make it best. So if we solve it, okay, we should be the best, the first, the best in
Yeah.
whatever pricing or the user experience, something like that.
Oh, that's a very interesting point. Also considering, so basically the flow is based from one side on data, so data driven, how many customers, for example, are asking for a specific feature. And on the other side is anyway very dynamic. So if you find a better opportunity or a better priority, there's space to change, the roadmap and going on. It's an interesting approach to be honest. And maybe just to understand how many, let's say, product or new feature are you working on at the same time? You just have one focus, or you have, like, for example, multiple teams working on multiple new
Yeah,
things?
that's multiple teams. So generally, it's like around like 7 to 8 things in parallel, and okay, 7 to 8 big things, right? And
Mm.
and in between them, there are some smaller updates that we basically release, but we do not like feel it's kind of you know general improvement. So it's like
Mm.
improvement, but it's not like changing the life of lives of our like customers. It's just one another topic, I don't know, and one of the another feature that will kind of improve a little bit the flow, something like
Mhm.
that.
That's cool. No, that's very very cool to be honest. Maybe just changing the argument a little bit. The kind of focus that you have right now, if I remember correctly, is strongly on SMEs and businesses.
Mhm.
Also freelancer, I will believe. How do you actually see that kind of separation, at least in the European market, between companies that are strongly focused on SMEs and companies that are focused on retails, maybe? Because we see, for example, a couple of digital banks that are going in one direction or another. Only a couple of them are really, let's say, able to pursue both of them at the same time. You decided to focus strongly on SMEs.
Yeah, and I do believe that there was exactly, the same example as we discussed before. We just followed the demand of customers.
Mm.
By saying we follow the demand is basically we launched our product for SME startups just recently. It was like literally last
Mhm.
year, beginning of last year. It was a beta phase of the product. We still had to fix some bugs. We were not happy with like the quality of the product, quality of support, etc. So we really started to do marketing only May last year, so less than 12
Mm.
months. But then what we've realized, what we've learned from what we've seen, basically, the demand is huge. It's enormous. So like, so many customers really want to have good service for their like payments, for their accounts, for the integration with accounting software. And again, it sounds completely normal. It should be the problem that is already resolved,
Yeah.
but it's not the case. So we were surprised. Um, so yes, we certainly do have things which stand us out of competition. Like interest
Mhm.
account is a killer proposition because, like, with us you can basically earn money with like,
Mhm.
just placing money on our interest accounts daily and get instant liquidity. You don't need to plan your like, when will you need this money back, like for term deposits? So you can easily earn money with that. Cashbacks is a big thing for us, but still, like, we didn't realize how big is it. And that's exactly where we made this decision to focus on SMEs. It was a mode when we realized that demand is so huge. We were so
Mhm.
surprised that like we are growing that fast that we realized, okay, then let's take all our internal resources and basically build for customers, and they would be grateful for that.
Mhm.
And that's what we see right now. Meaning, like, really, customers highly appreciate what we build. Meaning, everything when we release for them in mobile app or browser app, immediately get some traction. By saying
Mhm.
get some traction, people really start to use it immediately.
Hmm. So you think that the time for the user out there basically um, to actually use the app or a new feature is shorter with SMEs than, for example, for retail customers.
It's not shorter. It's rather than I would say customers in SMEs, they are not uh, they kind of a little bit more hungry for good
Hmm.
customer service and
Okay.
good customer experience. Let's put it this way. So, like,
Okay.
if you look at the B2C versus B2B market, so B2B is much less disrupted.
Mm.
And in the very end, it's the same problem. So we do not serve companies. We serve people. I mean, like,
That
we
are
serve
working
like
inside the
director
company.
or,
Yeah.
finance manager, someone who's working with this browser
Mm.
or mobile app. And imagine exactly the same person has a great mobile app for their personal needs, and then this person goes to some other app, either in browser or in mobile, and see something, some ugly interfaces, some delayed, transfers,
Yeah.
some I don't know, outrageous fees for some services, etc., etc. So they can clearly compare this one, and that's the reason why I say, okay, they're really grateful for this one. So they in the very end, they understand that it could be better because they have this great personal experience, but they just didn't have this possibility, this chance to get a proper product for their like company needs. And this is like the basic kind of difference, what convinced eventually us, okay, let's focus on SMEs because it's really enormous. It's
Yeah.
like if you look at not don't take only Germany where we are focused right now, right? But we prepare expansion these days, and literally it's like 25 million at least of businesses across Europe, and it's growing very nicely.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, to be honest, because basically you are solving the problem of the person that is working inside that company. They need to, work with very old flows and very old, automation and all of those kind of things, and you're trying to get their life easier, basically. So it's a really good point. Maybe coming back to the very first days of Vivid, I still remember the funding round that you guys closed in 2021. It was one of the biggest that year, and I remember that. I would like to ask you about the kind of experience of raising fund for a fintech startup in that specific moment in time. I think it was one of the best period ever to actually raise money, and I wanted to understand your experience about it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like it was a time when it was very friendly to founders and startups, certainly,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And mostly because of interest rates were like, low, and the capital was cheaper generally, and yeah, there was a generally a bit of overhyped market, I would say.
Yeah.
So, and basically, it was much easier than today. But if you would ask me, like, what I would prefer, I would say that I would prefer that we would rather have like today's market, meaning like today's market is much more rational. I'm not speaking about AI. AI may be a little bit different story, but if we speak about other areas of venture world, I would say it's much more rational. So investors are much more rational, founders are much more rational, and like they just look at, customer demand, customer quality, retention, economics, etc. So and these are all good things. So in that sense, I personally would prefer like current times than,
That's a
2021.
very interesting point because as a founder, you would think that you would prefer a period of time where cash was basically free and everyone was basically throwing money at startups. So it's a very interesting point. So both as a founder and as an investor, you will prefer this kind of environment?
Um, to a certain extent, I think first it could be a poison, right?
Mhm.
That could be a
Good
poison
point.
pill also for company, when they have too much cash, right? To spend
Mhm.
on unnecessary things and do not fight for efficiency. And second, that also allows many companies to stay alive. Not only the best companies to stay alive, but
Mhm.
rather many companies to stay alive because like capital is available there easily. So that's why I would say, okay, um, it's rather bad, not maybe the best market, but let's say the best how I see that one right now, I would say when it's a fair competition, the same playing
Mhm.
field, and when really the best teams, the best companies should compete for the money, for the capital. Uh, and this is like, the perfect way to basically fund only companies who are building the great service, the great product, the customers love. So it's a great selection criteria for me, but
But
maybe.
I think it's a very interesting point, and also a very rational one. I mean, I do agree about the fact that, for example, in 2020 and 2021, even 2019, I think there were a lot of companies that make no sense at all. Like I still remember the old trend about PFM solutions. There were like thousands of them, and actually no one actually were able to find out a good solution about it or a good business model about that product. But still, you have tons of companies, still providing that kind of solution and being alive just because cash was free. Um, at the same time, I do believe that there is a rationale behind not giving startups too much cash or too much capital, because otherwise they start spending in different directions that are not maybe all efficient. In the opposite way, they need to be very efficient in order to produce or provide a good product to the final customer. So I see your point, to be honest. Um, Maybe let's say there's a little bit of contradiction between the kind of high that we saw in 2021, for example, and the kind of low that we saw in 2022 and 2023 with the downturn. That was maybe a little bit too low, I would say. But yeah, maybe this could be an interesting question also for you. How do you actually handle the period that went from, let's say, mid 2021 to actually end of 2024, the downturn in fintech that we saw in the fintech market in Europe at least?
I would say that generally, like this also like there was certainly a turbulent period for us and
Mm.
difficult to navigate through. So I wouldn't say like that, funds were like, the main problem for us. So
Mhm.
mostly because we were lucky to raise just before the downturn started.
Yeah.
Where we suddenly had a problem is like first we were relying on external banking as a service infrastructure. That was a key problem for us because like once our bank as a service provider had some troubles, it immediately affected all of their clients, and we were by far the
Mhm.
biggest client for them by number of customers. So we suddenly had problems, and all problems were basically flown to our customers, and we had a reputational hit there, and that didn't help at all. So there was a moment when we had to basically stop marketing because it didn't make sense, to acquire customers and had while having all this, bad image around, and economically it didn't make sense. So there was a
Mhm.
moment when we decided, okay, we have to double down on our efforts to control our destiny, control the whole chain of value building for
Mhm.
customers. And basically that was a moment when we just put many things on hold and said, okay, listen, we first get our licenses up and running. We built our technology stack for this licensing infrastructure. And yeah, only after that we are able to grow again and build the new exciting products. That's actually what we did. We were, really quite silent for 2022 to 2023 before we really kind of launched, B2B, which was completely new product for us, purely on a new licensing structure, and then migrated also the last clients we had from banking and service provider towards our own license. So
Mhm.
that was a bad moment in time, certainly, but I think company became much stronger since then.
Mm.
Mostly because like we really had to find all possible and impossible efficiencies, pick up every stone, find, where you can find efficiencies economically and cut off all unnecessary fat, so to say, right?
Mhm.
And that was, I think, very painful, but very healthy for the company.
Mm. I think it's something like there is this word resilience that was a buzzword for a very long time, but once you go through a period like that, you really understand how resilience work, and you really understand that those kind of periods actually forge the spirit of a company, the spirit of employees, and everything else. So I think that from a certain point of view, it's a very healthy process to go through. Of course, it's not painless. It's actually the opposite, but you can see anyway the positive side out of it. It's a very good point. Um, how was let's say this is one of the trickiest question ever. I think how was the process of actually getting the banking license? Because I've been through it with a couple of companies, and I know for experience that is not easy at all. Really depending on the countries, to be honest, but it's not easy at all.
Yeah. In our case, we even decided to make it more complex. So we have
Yeah,
different licenses in different countries, in like
yeah.
in
Why make
Luxembourg,
life easier? I
Netherlands,
mean, come on,
Italy.
it was too easy.
Exactly. No, I mean, suddenly it wasn't easy. It took us quite a while. Um, so in some ways, we got our license from scratch. So there was a greenfield approach. In some
Mm,
cases, we bought a company and a team and infrastructure they built and integrated in-house. But okay, in some cases, it took from say 5, 6 months for some services until I believe 1.5 months. Oh, sorry, 1.5 years. So it's like 18 months
mm,
generally. So yeah, from what I remember. So like back in the days, it certainly was very painful to look like, okay, there are plenty of questions. You have to wait, you have to respond to all the questions, get all people and systems up and running, and provide comfort for regulators. But in the very end, that's worth it because like once you made it right, I certainly believe that we can build much more value for customers.
mm,
So it's much better when you can immediately fix stuff. By saying
mm,
immediately fix stuff, I mean literally, like I don't know, if a customer approach approached myself or approaches anyone else in a team with some problem, and we see like okay, this is the reason why we got into this trouble. There was like the root cause, and the root cause was caused by another problem. So,
mm,
and we basically can see the full chain, and we can fix the very basic, the very first root cause for such a problem. Not only for this customer, but also for
mhm,
anyone else who's facing this one. And that's great because like that's like the constant improvement of the product. At the moment when you cannot fix it because you're dependent on some external counterparty, that is a big pain for us as a team because you basically understand the problem and you share completely the same disappointment of experience that customer have, but you cannot do anything. That's
mm.
the
It's also very
biggest.
frustrating, I would say, under that point of view. But to be honest, 18 months for a banking license in certain countries is not a long period of time. I would say it's rather short for certain country, to be honest. So
Yeah,
it's not a you know.
I would correct you. So important
Mhm.
part. We decided not to go for a credit institution license.
Okay.
So we decided to build different financial institutions for
Mm,
specific services. So, for example, like in Luxembourg, where we issue our accounts, so we issue
mhm,
cards. We are a principal member of Visa. We are basically will provide some other services. That's basically our e-money company. If we
okay.
speak about the Netherlands, that's a MiFID company where we hold like custody
Mm,
relationship with customers, stock trading, where we have some investments, money market funds, investments, etc. So like that's kind of investment hub for us.
mm,
Italy acts as a crypto hub for us. So in that sense, like our approach was, okay, let's take different hubs for serving very specific customer needs.
That's very interesting, to be honest. And wow, the Italy's crypto hub is kind of crazy, kind of crazy for me, but it's very interesting the approach because I really see the point. Let's say to have like, for example, part of the institution or part of the entity in Luxembourg, part in the Netherlands, because you take advantage of the kind of good regulation that different states have, different countries have. That makes absolutely sense. Um, do you also need, for example, the AMI license, the email license, or for example, do you need MiCA right now for the crypto part? Because those kind of things will go in different direction at that
Mhm.
point of view.
Like in Luxembourg, we exactly have e-money license.
Okay, perfect.
The well, I think the widest one, which is like possible. In Netherlands, it's MiFID, and in Italy, still like the previous regime,
Mhm.
virtual asset service provider. Soon gonna be Mika. So yeah, we basically always trying to extend the scope of services we are able to provide on
Mhm.
different entities. That will help us to basically bring more new products. But this is always what we do very much in advance, meaning like
Mhm.
we start licensing process like 6 to 12 months before we really will roll out the product. So we just say, okay, we will need it for future, so let's make it now. And then like once we see, okay, it's gonna be close already to approval, okay, let's start to build a product.
Okay. No, that's an approach that makes absolutely sense to me at least. Maybe let's be a little bit more general in that direction. We come from a period of time where we saw many different innovation and many different approach and new things on the market, like the crypto, stable coins, micro regulation. But at the same time, we come from 2 years of downtrend basically in the market, and we are right now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, at least in my opinion. I wanted to understand what's your take on the fintech market right now, and what do you think is coming under that point of view? So, where are the trends that you are following? Where are the things that you see happening maybe in the market in the upcoming years?
Mhm. There are plenty of areas for fintech, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, like in that sense, like different trends. So, if we speak about like the market, which is close to us, ours, speaking about like B2B services. So one thing that we clearly see that there will be a big, merge between like fintechs and SaaS companies. By saying SaaS companies, I mean like, it could be naturally, very close services like accounting or, invoicing or
Mhm. Yeah, for example. Yeah.
bookkeeping, etc. So like it's easy, right? And
Mhm.
you already may see that that's like many players, and we are as well. Like we are no exception here. So we also provide like invoicing, e-invoicing, bookkeeping. We work on some new exciting products here. So generally, new banks are moving into this area and vice versa, right? This
Mhm.
big accounting companies or companies that are helping with bookkeeping, they also move into the area. Okay, let's also provide some financial services themselves or with the partnerships. Um, so there will be kind of a merge here, which I foresee. The second thing, which I can imagine, that the more and more financial services will become commoditized. And that is the reason
Mhm.
why we are in a completely different game than most of our neo-banking competitors. Because what they mostly do, they try to compete on the area of financial services, while our approach is rather to build um, all-in-one solution for director or manager or employee who's working with this platform. And it should be specifically financial services. And we do not
Mhm.
even believe that would be eventually just a mobile app or browser app. I completely can imagine that there will be the ecosystem of AI agents, which will
Mhm.
basically help you as an employee. I don't know, you may be, I don't know, marketing specialist in the company,
Mhm.
or you could be a financial, assistant in the company, whatever. And when you do certain stuff, you may interact with AI agents rather than interact with mobile app or browser app. And this is what I believe will be the big shift in the coming, if not months, but years. So,
Mhm.
and in this way, you may understand that banking services will become just less of important than the way how you basically help your users.
Mhm.
Would it be like, online marketing specialists or, financial assistant or whoever else in the company serve their needs? So that would be much more important that how you help them to do their job, make it more efficiently, etc., rather than, okay, have you issued your, debit
Mhm.
or credit card? Have you
Mhm.
really kind of open whatever, like an account for them? So it will become commoditized.
So the financial service itself will actually give us as granted. It's not important anymore. It's not the main focus anymore, but it's how you provide that service and how you providing that service help the final user to solve a problem, basically.
I mean, the industry will not disappear. I'm not saying that this way. So what I'm saying is that the focus and the way how customers decide on that will be more shifted into the way how they basically solve their needs and like how do they operate and like do their like routine job every day. So and that's why I say, okay, kind of, yes, certainly there will be banks, regulators will be there, banks will earn some money, and it's totally fine. I mean, but customers will not decide, okay, I will work with this company or with Vivid because of, okay, this company has this price per account or Vivid has another price per account. No,
Mhm.
they will decide, will Vivid solve my problem and help me basically to, you know, buy Google Ads for my
Mhm.
company. That's how they will think about this way. And if we make it better than, this another company, we're gonna win in this competition, in this, this battle for the minds of our customers,
Mhm.
not on the prices per their financial services, but rather, okay, how can we solve their needs? And this is like may sound a bit impractical for now, but soon you will see how companies, and we are not the exception here, so we'll shift the way that we provide services to customers.
Mhm. That's interesting. Maybe mm, because I was thinking about what a potential answer from my side would be to that question, and I would like to make a comparison with yours. So you see, let's phrase it like this: an hyper specialization or customization of the service based on how to provide it, and not the financial service itself. I was rather thinking about something more in the financial super app direction, having someone that is able to provide as many different kind of financial service at the same time, handling many different kind of use cases at the same time. So I would like to ask you, do you see coming first something like your idea, so hyper customization on the needs of the customer, or someone like a financial super app, something like WeChat or Alipay is doing in China, in Europe right now? So which one of the two, in your opinion, will come first?
Mm, good, good point. I don't separate them. So, okay,
Hmm.
that's very good that you point this out. So, I don't separate these two concepts. So, there
Hmm.
will be companies, and we clearly see ourselves as a
That's one of them. Yep.
very well equipped for being in this race, right? So there will be companies who will fight for the wide range of services. That's why I told
Mm.
you, like we want to be all in one platform for SMEs and startups, right? And you should be very fast in product delivery. You should be extremely focused on delivering many services fast. So basically, you are able to close all the needs of your customers, not solely linked to financial services.
Mhm.
And in that sense, that will happen. There will be like, three, four, five platforms across Europe, maybe some local winners as well, local
Mhm.
champions, who will do that. And yes, certainly there will be separately player with hyper localized, niche products.
Mhm.
At the same time, what I mean by saying that the way of like, selling products and the way how products look like will be different. I mean that it may happen that companies will no longer sell financial services. I mean, they will no longer sell, I don't know, cards or accounts
Mhm.
or, interest accounts. They will sell a solution for the problem. Okay, how can I get another month of runway for startup? That's a problem, right? Finding
Yeah.
financial director of a startup or a founder is taking care of this one. Another month
Yeah.
of runway is a big deal, right? You can build a lot in 30 days. So and then you have a couple of financial services to make it happen and non-financial services to make it happen.
Mhm.
And basically, you do not sell, okay, take my whatever interest account, use my treasury, look at, cash flow solutions, and basically we can help you basically save some money to extend the runway. No, you basically say, okay, this is a solution to extend your runway. And yes, if you want to look under the hood, how is it built? Okay, this is, the way how we do that. But what I'm saying is just people will interact with companies differently. People will rather look for solutions, but not products.
That's an interesting point. So they will look for a solution to their problem instead of the product itself. So if they
Yeah,
found, for example, if they find a platform that is able to solve all of their problem, they would probably stick to it because it's just easier under that point of
yeah,
view. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah. I
very
can
good
give
point.
you a perfect example. Like right now, say we have like one of the products like billing box. That's how we call it,
Mm.
right? So customers are able to basically connect their like any of their like bills at certaincompany.com, right? They collect all the bills from their like counterparties there. So basically they may forward all their bills automatically
Hmm.
to the dedicated billing box that we provided for them. And like our AI agents basically do the job to like, categorize this one,
Yeah,
to find, suspicious, non-suspicious, like, to show, okay, some whitelist, blacklist, etc., and
yeah,
prepare the whole like, payment dashboard for you as a financial person who is running operations. So and the good part, so once customer really start using this one, they basically say, okay, this is so nice, so I don't need to take care of this one. I have all my reminders. I have like, all my payments on one page and one dashboard. I can, basically, if I like all of them, I can confirm them within one click and pay it in once, right? Or I can reject some of them. I can request some additional documents from them. So it's basically solving their needs. So the stickiness is much better. Imagine how difficult it will be to sell. Okay, we have this
yeah.
payment product. You have to take the invoice, type in your bank details, whatever. Check, go to transaction history, check that it's a new
Especially, yeah. Mm.
IBAN or maybe some mistakes in the IBAN, etc. So like it's many micro steps that a financial person has to do before preparing the payment. And if you resolve this one in once, so the stickiness for such a product is much, much higher.
Yes, I can see your point very clearly. To be honest, it's something that will solve a lot of needs in the market. Maybe last question from my side, because you mentioned AI agents. Um, how much are you using that kind of technology right now in your day-to-day operation? Because this is something that we saw in the last, let's say, year and a half. Having a huge impact in the market overall. But more recently, I think that that kind of approach, and mostly with AI agents, are disrupting the entire fintech industry in many different ways, from payments to onboarding to KYC and to many others. So how much are you using that right now?
I have two answers for you. We are using that a lot,
Okay.
but completely not enough. So let's put
That's
it
a
this
very
way.
good
So,
answer, to be honest.
so yeah, I must say that it's pretty much every area where we use it. I'm not mentioning like copilots for development. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's kind of basic. It's kind of everyone's doing that. Like I mentioned you this product like Bill Inbox, right? That is where like certain AI agents are working on that. We have like different chat support bots which help customers to with some problems. We have many AI agents within our acceptance teams,
yeah.
our transaction monitoring teams that are doing the job. under the hood. So you as a customer don't see that, but the thing that we are able to make certain things really fast basically is only able because of these AI agents, because they may basically do not disturb you because we have this internal like metric to disturb you as a customer as much less as possible, basically. But thanks to many AI agents, we are able to basically monitor the situation. Sometimes just say, okay, it's a normal behavior for the customer. It's nothing
Mm.
wrong here. So, and if it's something wrong again and an anomaly, then we can flag it to a certain specific person who will take a look and say, okay, there should be something, difficult here. So at the same time, like if you would ask me, I would say that we have to use it like 10 times more. So and yeah, we certainly are right now we're expanding this topic. So there will be more products, both on the client facing side and internally, who's gonna increase our productivity and basically
Mm.
do some exciting stuff. But I don't want to tease it in advance.
Yeah,
You will see that.
yeah, yeah. But maybe just talking about operation, do you think that the AI side is already more than 50% of the job, or still is lower? So it's more human job right now, or AI?
Depends. If you look at the customer care, it's simply more AI.
Mm.
If you look at operations, again depends on. Okay, there are many different procedures. So
Yeah.
if you look at whole operations, it will be um, very healthy double digit, I would say, of like operations we have. So I would say it's like closer to 30% to
Mm.
40% of like what are we doing is done like automatically, but it's not like 50. Would Where
Mm.
we would be like in half a year time, it certainly would be more than half. But again, it's not a fair comparison because when we implement AI agents, we do not like just AI agent is not doing the same job as like a
Mm.
human
It's
being.
not removing the human side,
Yeah,
basically,
it's
just a
changing the nature of what
introduction.
they do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually changing the nature of what they do. So
Yeah.
human being just stop doing this task and they focus on another task.
Mm.
And the AI agent is just taking this one. So basically every time when we implement another AI automation, it's basically okay, we got some additional improvement for customers. Faster response, faster
Okay.
acceptance of their like account onboardings encounter opening process, I don't know, faster check on their money flows, something like that. So that's basically always some improvement in speed. Uh, and that's why I cannot like clearly compare like what AI is doing and human beings doing. They just do different jobs.
That's a very good approach, to be honest. I always thought that just using AI to cut costs and have more efficiency is not the right way to do it. I think that the real value behind that kind of technology is actually bringing more value to the market. That could either be to the employees doing operation or to the user on the other side actually having the product. So strongly believe about that approach. Alex, it has been a very, very interesting conversation, to be honest. I could have gone for at least another couple of hours.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining. It was very, very good to have you.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation as well. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice one. Bye.
Have a nice one. Bye.